beat and take it to the past now.
Welcome on board again to our threat and error management model. I want to thanks to all that community on YouTube and all my friends that support this commitment with the training programs. Thank you to everybody who contact us and all the people on the aviation system that is sharing this content. Thank you really is important to us to know that the people is updating these models, these philosophies, and this human factor program. So thank you again, and obviously thank you to our sponsors, that organizations that support our commitment. So welcome again to this new chapter. This is the part 2 of the threats and error management model. Well, let's begin talking about the last chapter of this training program. In the part 1, we talk about the threats and the errors, diagnosis, or the first segment of this model, when we will find the threats, the errors, and obviously the countermeasures that we are going to take care on our procedures, our flights, our commitments. So remember, at the diagnosis segment, we will find 3 parts. The first part talk about the threats, and threats are divided in 3 parts: the latent threats, external and internal threats, talking about the organizations, the external organizations, and our own organization, and talk about the external errors. That means that we need to take care about the control strategies for the errors on other person. So we must to ask about the how is the training program running in the others, how they use the checklist, and how they use the redundant methods to control the errors, their errors. And then we review our own control strategies, our own errors control program. And then when we realize all this threats and errors that will affect our performance, will affect our activities, well, we need to identify the countermeasures that we are going to use for that procedure, flight, meeting, etc. So remember that the countermeasures will be the technology that we are going to use, the normative updated and useful and practical to us, the training program required for this, the updated program on training, and these supervisors or all these supervision that we are going to take on the operations, so maybe the document says only for the first 3 countermeasures, technology, normative, and training, but it's important to take care about the supervision. So it means that we need to realize what affects our flight, our commitment, and which kind of countermeasures will help us that day, that day or on that procedure. You know, the surveillance, remember, is very important in this. All the time, you need to surveillance all uh, these procedures. Well, talk about the first segment. We'll be running on a briefing. The briefing will take something like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not too long. The briefing is not long. Means that the briefing depends about the person's performance or skills. Remember, we must to evidence three kind of skills: technical skills, knowledge skills, and attitude skills or soft skills. So according to that kind of skills, the briefing will take more or less time due to a person that is educated, trained, and has soft skills. Well, this diagnosis will be easy, quickly, and we are going to realize faster than the other persons uh, their resolutions and how are going to act with this diagnosis. Okay, so be sure that your crew members, your team, your partners are working on that three kind of skills. Well, today we are going to talk about the two segment and the final segment of this model. Well, the second segment talk about the behaviors. Behaviors, talking about the management. Management, according to maintenance, resource management, if we are talking about the technicians, or crew resource management, if we are talking about the crew members or team members, and at the end, the total resource management when we are talking about the organizations. So behavior, the act, how we are going to act after realize that the diagnosis segment, okay? So it means movement, decisions, acting. How are we going to choose a behavior after that treats and errors consent, you know? So according this, the second segment begins telling us that we will have one of these two kind of behaviors. The first kind of behaviors are knowledge, like the positive behaviors or the good behaviors or good attitude for the procedure, the flights, or the commitment that we are going to face. And the second one, the red one, uh, is that behavior that is not so positive. It's not good for the procedure. So the first behavior is take a great decision making, threat recognition, the error avoidance, take the safe and use the countermeasures. Okay, it's like we are acting according the maintenance resource management, crew resource management, or total resource management references and recommendations. Okay, talking about the human factor recommendations, talking about that soft skills like team working, um, leadership, and etc., etc. But the second kind of behavior will be that error management behaviors when we avoid, trap, contain, exacerbate, or we fail to respond to this first segment of the diagnosis segment. Well, these two kind of behaviors will give us the difference between a safe condition or a non-safe condition. So the first thing that we must to take clear for us is which kind of attitude are we going to take. Okay, remember, we have two kinds of attitudes, a positive attitude and a negative attitude. Well, if we take one of these two kind of behaviors, we will get some outcomes. The first outcome is a safe life. The safe life is consequence of the good decisions, the good commitment, the good behavior, the positive behavior, the use of the management programs, the safety programs. Well, when we act in that way, be sure you will have a safe life. And when I'm saying a safe life, I'm saying a safe meeting or a meeting according the purpose or the goal that you are trying to get. So it's the good result, the good situation, the normal develop of procedures, okay? So the consequence of the good behavior, the good attitude using the countermeasures will be the safe life. But the second kind of behavior, the not so good behavior, the negative behavior, well, it will produce three kind of outcomes. The first one on yellow color is an inconsequential situation. Inconsequential situation means that, okay, we may be found a crew member error that are not going to affect all the procedures in a heavy way or in a big way. So if it's inconsequential, we are going to recover the safe line, the safe conditions. But we also can find two different outcomes. The other outcome will be undecided aircraft state or undecided conditions. See that is a red block here showing as an warning that, okay, we are going to affect our safety. Undecided aircraft state means that states when to fly is more difficult than the normal. It is not an emergency. It is not an incident. It is not an accident. It's just that our procedure is going harder than in a normal way. So it's like when you have a center of gravity out from the normal conditions, okay? So your stabilization on the flight will be harder than the normal. So you need to take control all the time about the aircraft. If you are going to have a meeting, okay, and maybe that day the sound, the microphone is not working, well, you will need to loud use your voice more than necessary, maybe yellow, because you don't have a microphone working. Okay, so you will going to have the meeting, you will run the meeting, but in a hardest way than the normal. All those things are the undecided states, undecided situation, undecided aircraft states. Well, remember that we are using this model as if we are going to fly an aircraft, but it can be used for any kind of issues you found daily on your office, on your organization, for your team, for your commitments, etc. and etc. So just do the parallel between the aircraft state to a meeting state or procedure state. Undecided states means undecided situations, okay? And the last one, outcomes, consequence of a no good behavior will be an additional error. That means that we are growing on a not so good situation. Okay, so we are just moving us to an incident step by step. Remember that the model is just baby steps, talking like, okay, one, identify, two, act, take decisions, and three, get some consequence. So this second segment talks about which kind of consequence we will get from our own decisions. Our decision means the team decisions, the crew member decision, the leadership, all soft skills running around us, etc., etc. Here is important to say that the making decisions process, the behaviors are consequence of the mental conditions and emotional conditions. So the most important thing to take care about on your crew members, your team members, your partners will be the health, mental health, and emotional health. If you can control the emotional health, you will take better decisions. You will have better behaviors. But if your emotional condition is affected by anything, or your mental health is affected, believe me, you will fail to respond to that diagnosis or to this first segment talking about the threats or the errors. Okay, so the safety management system talk, and it's very important to take care of this. Be sure that your crew members have a good health, mental and emotional health. That means that that crew will be working always on safety and good decisions. Otherwise, you will fail. Okay, so it's very important to take clear that the technical skills are very important, of course. Knowledge skills are really important, of course. But those both skills can be affected by one, the soft skills that are the consequence of the mental and emotional conditions on the people. Think about that. Talk about that with your organizations and move your training programs to grow on the soft skills for all the personnel. Okay, well, these are some kinds of undecided aircraft states. As I told you before, maybe an incorrect aircraft configurations, maybe the aircraft handling fails, okay, etc., etc. We are not talking about incidents or accidents. We are just talking about that the procedure is a little bit hard than the normal, okay? Well, so just think on this, like, no, our commitment is it's being affected, but it's not the end. Okay, you can solve that, but you can solve that. You need to work hardest, but you can't solve it. Okay, well, so let's see the first and the second segment together. The first segment, diagnosis segment, the briefing attitude. Okay, all these threats, errors, and countermeasures. And then we will have the behaviors and the outcomes according that behaviors as consequence. Well, if you see inside that gold ring are the two kind of behaviors. Behaviors make the difference between safety and the risk fail on the management. If you want to have a safe conditions, if you want to have a normal meeting, if you have to take the control, well, remember that outcome is the consequence of good behavior that is consequence about your soft skills. Don't forget it, okay? Well, let's talk about the final segment. What's going on? What's going on after we found undecided aircraft state? As I told you before, it's not the end. The undecided aircraft state, the undecided situations are not the end of this equation. We can solve it. How we can solve it? Well, again, you have two choices, two kind of behaviors. Again, it's on you. Meaning that soft skills act again in this model. Decision making, threat recognition, error avoidance, safeguard and countermeasures running will solve these situations. Other way, the error management behaviors, avoiding it, trapping it, containing it, etc., will create an non-desired situation, but is worst on this model. Let's see. Obviously, after that undecided recovery state, if you recover your behavior, your attitude, your decision making, you will recover the safe light, the safety, and the good conditions for your procedure, your meeting, etc., etc., etc. But if you fail on that behavior, well, you will get an additional error. And think about it. You took in the past a not so good decision. You don't use your countermeasure. That creates an undecided graph state, and then you fail to respond again, creating an additional error. Well, after that, you are going straight to an incident or an accident. Well, I don't want to see this like the error change. No, the error chain is like one thing goes to the other thing and the other thing and the other thing. Well, it looks like that, but The difference here is that we are not uh, focusing our management on that chain. We are getting the focus on the behaviors. Okay, so on your control errors strategy is up to you, to your team, to your crew member, solve this situation. It's not only according the staff, the countermeasures are failing. No, it's on you. Okay, so let's see the full 10 model or 10 model. The first segment, the second segment, and this final segment. And this final segment, well, it's important to show you that after a fail on the first behavior and adding that an addition error, you are going straight to an incident or the accident. So let's see, going backward, why the incidents or the accidents occurs. Well, the incident or the accident is a consequence of the behaviors that are consequence of the soft skill conditions that are consequence of the mental health and emotional conditions on the human being. So that's the reason on the ICAO told us the accidents are going to happen again. We are not creating an permanent safety conditions. We need to take care of this. We need to think about this. We need to talk about this. We need to discuss this and have a great surveillance on these procedures due to the incident and the accident is just a consequence of the human being conditions. We all are human. We all are going to fail sometimes, somewhere, and in some way. But this is not the big deal. The big deal is how we can realize that just working on the training program that reduce the error quantity. How we are using our checklist to identify an error. How are we using our countermeasures? Who is getting this or running the surveillance? No, so don't be afraid. Listening that the accident is there, only need the date because it will happen. But when we talk about that, we are just saying that when you found a tweet that you cannot resolve, you can fly on that condition only if you discuss that with your team members, with your crew members, when you, after that, use the countermeasures that is going to help you, and then you use the soft skills to recover a safe life if you found an undecided condition or state. So this model drive us directly to the soft skills because remember, and just I invite you to see this full model and look, inside the two rings are the two kind of behaviors. And the safe life is consequence of the first kind of behavior, positive behavior. So the accident and the incident is consequence of the opposite way when you act. Okay? So the most important thing on a risk environment is the attitude. The human being attitude. So the organization must to work daily on the mental health, emotional health, training programs that guarantee the soft skills growing on the people, on that organization, working for the system, not working by themselves, okay? This is contained on the integrity principle that says that the human being has three kinds of skills. Technical skills, wonderful. Knowledge skills, wonderful. But the most important of them, the soft skills or the attitude. Attitude is action. How are we going to act with our technical skills and which kind of decisions we are going to take with that knowledge skills? Only knowledge is not good. Only technical skill is not good. But including attitude, you will have a better result on a safe condition, on a safety flight. So I hope that today we cover all these threat and error management model. Remember, it's just an example, step by step, how to act when we face that environment, high risk environment, or even a meeting that you are planning for today. I hope that this model helped you on how to act or recognize that you have a countermeasure failing or you don't have it or it's not updated. So you need to act on that to have a better condition for the next issue, for the next procedure, for the next flight, for the next meeting, for the next activity. As always, I must to thank you for your time. It's not easy to take time these days. We are busy people, and all the people is just taking less time daily. So when you spend time just sharing this content is really nice. It's really good to me to know that. So I appreciate it and thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this program. And please, if you have something to share to us, just contact us to the mail, to the WhatsApp, or obviously on the comments below this YouTube video. So thank you, and I see you soon on the next program that for sure will be a great program too. So from Colombia, my name is Ruben Lesmes, and thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.